Hi there, it's Cora, and I'm here with Yoga Blend Lab Online. Class number 15 for Restorative and the 5 Elements. So we're here in spring season with the wood element. And it's the season of the liver and gallbladder, season of green, spring, yang, movement, right? Like the trees, like the plants growing. And so last session I talked about the liver and the liver meridians and the pairing organ, the yang organ that pairs with the yin organ is the gallbladder to the liver. Now, just a quick reminder that I have talked about the zang fu, the empty and the full, the solid and the empty organ pairing of Chinese medicine. And each season has a solid and an empty organ, and a bowel and a viscera. So in this situation, the liver and the gallbladder, right? The liver is the full solid organ, and the gallbladder is the empty releasing organ. And so just quickly that the yin qualities are found in the solid, and the yang qualities are in the empty, it's sort of in the airy and less substantial. Like the yin is full and solid, and the yang is sort of emptying and moving and lighter. So the yin is the supplier of ideas, the supplier of experience, right, of things that occur in our lives, and the resources that are available to manifest these things in our lives, these ideas and experiences, and sort of this continuation. And the yang helps us to use the resources, to kind of like make use of the resources. So in the case of the liver and the gallbladder, the liver is responsible for keeping the qi moving, right? If the qi is the blood, sort of like we move blood through the system, if you think about that as rivers, right? Although we separate blood and qi and jing and tu in Chinese, but that's a bit more complex. But the liver is the function of keeping the qi, the blood moving, of storing it and bringing it to feed the heart, feeding the empress. And so it's sort of like bringing it to its greatest potential, right? That the blood is feeding into the heart, bringing it into its greatest potential. And the gallbladder sort of gives the direction of the flow, right? Sort of like the yang is sort of how to use the resources. So the gallbladder governs willpower, decisions, or not such like the decisiveness, sort of the doingness of this. And in fact, the word that we have in Chinese for the gallbladder is the da, dan, the big gall. If you think about in English, the word gall, like to have gall is sort of to have some, decisiveness to move, and not always in a pleasant way in the gall, but having gall really is that decisive movement. So let's go through the gallbladder anatomy, and let's use Morgan. So if you remember, we have moved right from the lung and large intestine. Take the heart out, or something. Rip the heart out. Sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it, in life? So just remember that it's just encased like a precious jewel within, like the lotus, the gem in the lotus. And then here's the diaphragm. And we're going to make this whole unit out. This is with the pancreas, the stomach, the liver, and the diaphragm. So we'll remove the diaphragm. And you see in the back here? Can you see what's going on? What's kind of confusing, doesn't it? Front and back. So it sits like this, right? The liver. If you turn it around, you see here's the pancreas, stomach in there. So remove the pancreas. I take the stomach and remove the stomach. And so you see behind this massive liver sits the gallbladder. It's a small pear-shaped sac. It's about 3 to 4 inches long. And it takes the bile that's received from the liver and moves it down into the duct to feed into the small intestine. So you'll kind of see how it sort of sits in there with the stomach, right? That the liver stores the blood, it purifies it. It's basically a main resource for the life of the heart, right? So like the general, it sort of keeps the force of the heart of the emperor. And the gallbladder helps to purify the blood. It takes helps to break down the fat. And you remember if we moved from the winter season, the kidneys are deep in there. So the gallbladder itself is a sac where the bile is stored. But in Chinese medicine, the gallbladder actually envelops the liver function and helps to get rid of impurities. In fact, the gallbladder meridian is very long, very big, and the liver meridian sort of meets it. So the gallbladder meridian starts and behind the eyes. It kind of comes up around the ears, and then it kind of comes back and forth, and then down the back of the neck, coming down, wrapping in front of the shoulders, and then coming down the side body, wrapping around, coming down the outside of the leg, coming down and ending up in the fourth toe. The liver starts on the inside of the big toe, comes on the inner leg, comes on the inner, coming inside, coming up and in, wrapping and meeting at the lower rib end. So the gallbladder meridian actually wraps around the liver meridian. And I think it has the largest amount of points, 44 points. It has the most points in the head. Yeah. So it kind of like wraps around the head, kind of encasing the head. So you see that even symbolizes the idea of wrapping around the mind. This like decisiveness, this container for the mind. And the liver itself metabolizes a huge range of substances for life force. I've said before that it has 1,000 enzymes, 500 functions, none of which we can live without. So it has the ability to metabolize or turn poisons, toxins, into basically life force. It turns the toxins, the toxicity, and moves it from the toxicity into the life force that feeds the blood, that feeds the heart, that feeds ability to pump, to feed the other organs. So you see that this liver, in many ways, when we say it's the general, we call it the general, because it's sort of the organizer and the creating that container, right, of moving the forces, directing the forces. And then the gallbladder is the assistant, the counsel to the general, because the gallbladder sort of is making sure everything is okay, getting all the information. The general's kind of busy sometimes, making big decisions. The gallbladder's out there, like checking everything. So it runs through the whole body, right, from the top of the head all the way down to the foot. Very, very big meridian, powerful meridian, really, really powerful meridian. And if you think about how the liver itself functions, right? The liver as the general, but in the reality of the Western medicine, it is a metabolizer. It's a transformer, right? It cleanses the toxicity and cleanses the blood. So where do you think all that toxicity goes, right? Because the liver has to pull it out. Make sure deciding what goes where. And the toxicity goes into the bile duct, the gallbladder. So it goes into bile. It goes into that like icky, green, yellowy stuff, right? So that bile is itself sort of the toxicity and the ick, right? That we need to get rid of. So you see that gallbladder, do you see how it fits in right by the stomach? And you see how the pancreas, see how that blue, an artery. So you see this is like an artery, comes up here. It goes straight into the back of the heart. Do you see that? So it's feeding, really feeding in the heart. Do you see how that pathway runs from the cleansing movement up and in directly to the heart, right? The only thing that's sitting between is the diaphragm. But that this feeding of the blood, right, is directly into the heart. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense as far as how it all fits together. Take the intestines out. So putting it back in, you see I have to fit the whole unit in as one unit, and then I sort of push the large intestines, because that's where it dumps, right, feeding the digestive system. Put the heart back into its nest. And if we think about the nest, it's sort of putting the heart back into the Brahma-viharas, the divine abode. You see, it's sort of interesting that there's 4 chambers of the heart. There's 4 Brahma-viharas, the divine abode of the heart. Loving kindness, metta, karuna, compassion, mudita, appreciative joy, and upeksha, equanimity. So it's like these 4 chambers act as the home of the heart, sort of representing the Brahma Viharas, the place where we nourish the heart. So, the gallbladder is in charge of making decisions and judgments. The liver acts on these. Now, the liver is the energy of assessing, and the gallbladder is in the business of asserting. So when we say that someone has poor gallbladder chi, it means that they're kind of indecisive, unable to move forward in life. This ability to move and present itself, to deal with life's issues and difficulties. So a lot of the energies that are involved is the idea of courage, initiative, clear thinking, and decisiveness. These are all living in the gallbladder. The other thing is that the gallbladder has vital points around the jaw, because it kind of comes around the head, right? So when it wraps around the ear and comes down, it's sort of, you see, it's sort of affecting the jaw. So we say in some respects that the liver sort of helps us decide sort of the thinking, right? The heart mind, this thinking part. But that the gallbladder almost is so basic that it allows us to even open our mouth. Because without even being able to open the mouth, we couldn't speak at all. So the liver might have that decisiveness, the decision making, but the gallbladder actually gets it out into the world, because it sort of comes and wraps the head and brings everything in toward the heart to feed the heart. In Chinese, we say that there's a saying that the gallbladder is daring, it's courageous, it's got energy, and the heart is careful. right? So the gallbladder is moving, but the heart kind of like helps to rein it in. So we're not just moving out. We have to move out, but move slowly with intention and attention. And if you think about it, we move from the deep kidney yin, right? When you're moving into the most active yang of the fire of summer. And somehow this element of wood, spring, manages to transform the element of water, deep, deep yin, to the element of fire, deep, deep, deep yang. So it's the ability to deal with something that is able to be changed, right? Just like the gallbladder itself can change and transform fat into something useful. And when the gallbladder is overloaded, we can't do that function. And we start to have disease in the body. So for today, we will be working with that whole front body, the mind to the feet. So we'll be doing some restorative poses that help us to sort of open the front of the body and then bring ourselves back in toward ourselves, toward the seat of the heart. So we'll move from the thinking mind to the feeling mind, and we'll just sit for a few moments, and then we'll proceed. So come into a comfortable seated position, and we'll sit for a few moments.